Welcome to another episode of the House Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
All right, welcome into episode 27 of the House Huddle Podcast. As always, Rob Schwartz, joined with my co-host Justin Onayemi. Merry Christmas. We haven't seen each other.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas. Good to be back in person with you. Walt Harris episode.
Okay, so I'm glad that you brought that up. I actually looked up to see if there was a number 27 on this podcast, or for this podcast episode. There is not on the active roster, but there is on the practice squad.
Okay.
And it's Greg Stroman Jr.
Oh, yeah. They just signed him, right?
Yeah. So that'll be the Greg Stroman, I think Walt Harris. Beats him out.
Sticking with Walt Harris.
The
Got
guy,
a lot of fond memories of his play and those teams.
Yeah. The guy that actually stuck out to me, and I'm pretty sure I have his number right, was
That's
McManus. Pretty
right.
sure he was also 27.
so.
Just like a special teams guy,
Yeah.
right?
Made a lot of big plays. Those are game-changing type plays.
Yeah.
But, well, it's nice to be 27 episodes in. And
It is.
the season has not been what we were hoping for from a wins-loss perspective. But I still think this is an exciting young team to see where they're going to go as early as next year. We obviously did a whole mock off-season episode. Thanks to a lot of listeners out there, it seems to be catching on with people, and we already are going to have to modify it a bit. But to see this team at 3-11, no, 3-12.
Yeah, 12.
Oof, when you say it that way. But anyway, and yet things still seem rosy in some sense.
Yes.
Whereas, look at Denver.
Yeah.
They had to fire their first-year head coach.
Right? Ouch.
And you're like benching a quarterback that you still owe $200 million to.
Like, do you think that they're now kicking themselves because they interviewed Luke Getsy and they chose Nathaniel Hackett over him? Like,
yeah.
Ouch.
I mean, we'll talk about the Buffalo game. I was really critical of Getsy on Sunday, but or Saturday, I guess it was.
Saturday.
Who knows what he would have been as a head coach? And I mean, I'm sure the time will come. He'll get his opportunity. I don't know if it'll be this season or next. But I like that. I like what the Bears have going. It's hard to say that when they're 3-12, but I think we'll get into it a little bit on the show. There's still a lot to look forward to with this team.
And speaking of things to look forward to, I'm going to segue off of that here. We hit 100 subscribers just like yesterday.
Yeah.
We're up to 103 right now, so we want to say thank you and appreciate everybody who has subscribed. One of the things that we talked about doing, and we put it in the comments section of our 26th episode, is we are going to do a giveaway. We started the giveaway on Twitter. We expanded it to our YouTube channel, and now that we hit 100 subscribers, we're going to give away a Chicago Bears baseball cap. I had one picked out, but I mean, to be honest, as long as it's within the same price range, if the winner decides they want to pick something different, I don't think that's an issue. Maybe they want something that's more fitted and not one of the flex caps, and they can tell us what their actual size is.
Okay.
But either way,
I mean, we just appreciate that, people are listening, people are following and commenting. We comment back.
Yes.
We're fans just like the listeners. And I think that's what I've loved doing this for, just getting our own thoughts out there, hearing what people have to say about it, and, seeing where this team goes.
Yeah, so this upcoming week, we will put together a list of all the subscribers and then everyone who qualified through our Twitter giveaway instructions. And we're going to do a random drawing on who's going to win. We did this once before. The gentleman that got the prize, I confirmed he got it. It did take a little bit, and we shipped direct to them. So it's just a matter of shipping from the NFL shop, basically. And so we're going to get that going sometime in the next episode.
And we talked about one more giveaway we'd like to do, and it would be a big one. It would be a Justin Fields jersey.
Yeah.
And so for that, we'd have to really push the number up.
Yeah, in my mind, so right now I have my mind set at 500 subscribers. So, a little bit under 400 more to go. I know that's a big jump, but this is our New Year's resolution episode.
That's right.
Right? We're going to hint that out. This is our New Year's resolution episode, and we're going to talk about some Chicago Bears resolutions. Mm-hmm. But we're also going to talk about our own resolutions and, what we have for the show. And I think we got some big things coming. In fact, I already spoke to somebody about a potential guest episode in 2023, someone who follows college sports a lot and is really big into the prospects that you don't have high on your list, but could have, sleeper potential.
Hey, look at Mr. Irrelevant.
That's right.
Leading the team to the playoffs.
Brock Purdy. All right. Well, I guess, so that's it. Let's look. We're going to do a real quick recap. I know it's been a while since the game was played. I'm sure you guys have heard enough about it. It wasn't that great of a score, 35-13, but it was a lot closer than that score looked, at least.
I'd say so.
I mean, it was 21-13.
Really late that I was surprised.
I was,
especially when Eberflus has done the opposite of that for other teams.
I actually tweeted something out about how they were just padding their stats.
It might have changed a few fantasy matchups. We were blown the hell out in ours, but
yeah, they had already covered the spread, so it's not like that made a difference. But it was a lot. It was 21-13 with not. I mean, it was in the fourth quarter, so
yeah. Well, so going into the game, I mean, obviously, playoffs, they were eliminated a long time ago. You and I were even talking, like, what's our focus watching this game?
Yep.
And the things we wanted to look at was, just how the game developed, but also specifically looking at young players. And I know with 2 games left, they're division rivals. Bears haven't won a single division game this year, but it's the same focus. It's going to be looking at the young players. And I have a really sour thing that I want to quickly talk about. I mean, this is not in the deep part of the notes, but let's just start off by saying the Bears put out their 8th different offensive line this season. Yep. That's not a good sign.
Nope.
And then within the game, both your guards, I think, went out at some point.
Yeah, I think Schofield only missed a couple plays, but
I thought he missed more than that. But either way, what it brings up to me was the absence of Alex Leatherwood.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's health related. I mean, if it's that, then I should just stop talking. But we've seen him here and there.
Yeah.
And then when there's obvious opportunities and it's in this lost season where really all you're looking at is, do we have anything here? A guy that was a first-round pick a year ago?
Yep.
Now, granted, some other team already has said, bye-bye. That should be a little bit of an indicator to you. But it looks like the Bears might already be in that place with him. What do you think?
I mean, he only had, 17 snaps the week prior and let up 3 pressures. Riley Reif didn't let up any while he was in there. So that right there is an indication that I think they're just trying to keep Justin Fields upright.
True.
But at that point in this game, when they were talking about, potentially seeing him at the guard position, let's see what he can do there. Why not throw him in, right? I mean, when Schofield went out, I honestly didn't notice it at first, but he clearly wasn't the one that came in.
No.
It was
Eastland.
Dieter Eastland.
Eastland, sorry.
So, if you're trying to see what this guy can do for your team, why is he not being put in that position? I don't understand. It's a very frustrating situation. I know Mono is very hard to recover from, but if he's out there getting snaps, you're telling me that he's healthy enough to play.
Right.
Put him in these positions. See what you have, because right now he's a part of your team next year. Whether he's going to be a starter or not, he's a part of this team. There's really no reason to cut him. At least he'll be on the 90-man roster. Whether he makes the final, 53.
There's a lot of decisions between now and then.
Exactly.
But I just wanted to see him out there, and the fact that we didn't, I thought was a big, big indicator of where they think he's at.
Yeah.
So that was a little disheartening.
Now, Matt Eberflus did come out and say that he is wanting to see some specific younger guys play. Maybe that's a hint that maybe Leatherwood will see some action over the next 2 games.
You got to hope. I mean, what are you waiting for? You got to see him in game time action to see if he's – because we talked in our mock offseason. They have to do a whole lot to fix that O-line.
Yep.
So you want to know any potential you have that's on this current roster. And like you said, he's coming back. It's just a matter of if there's any role for him. But I thought this past game was a bad indication for him.
I agree.
What other young players stood out to you?
So not a young player, but I did want to bring this guy up because it's a guy that when you look at this roster and you look at the wide receiver position, there are guys that are on 1-year deals, and it's possible that none of them come back. N'Keal Harry, Dante Pettis, Equanimeous St. Brown, Byron Pringle, right? All on 1-year deals. It's very highly likely that none will come back. Maybe 1, maybe 2. I can't see any more than 2.
Let's hope not more than 2.
Right? I can't see any more than 2. I do think they like Equanimeous St. Brown, right? But I tweeted out during the game, like, if you're going to be bringing back one of Pringle, Harry, or Pettis, right now, in my mind, it's Pettis. And I know, as much as he's had issues with catching the ball, here's what I like, okay? Dante Pettis does the dirty stuff that you need out of a wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6. Somebody who can make a catch every once in a while, but he's the guy out there making blocks and key blocks.
Yep.
Blocks that are scoring points, right? Allowing Justin Fields to get to the outside or David Montgomery to find a hole and score a touchdown. I mean, these are the things that you want from your back end wide receivers.
That's true. I actually wrote down here Pettis had a really nice block on a rollout. I didn't think they did enough moving of the pocket.
No, they didn't.
That was one thing there.
Now, do you think that was because the offensive line was limited?
I don't know. I've been having thoughts about that. Like, I was down on Getsy's play calling, but then I kind of thought about it. I'm like, they're rolling in different linemen.
Yeah.
These guys the receivers are coming off the practice squad. Some of these
Webster.
guys. So then I kind of thought, okay, maybe you got to be a little more vanilla.
Sure.
But I didn't like it overall. But as time went on, I kind of came down.
Yeah.
There are 2 more I really want to mention, but let's stick with the offense. We saw Velus.
We did.
We saw Velus.
Yep.
And it wasn't just wide receiver screens, and it wasn't just jet sweeps.
Yep.
He had a few opportunities downfield. One was the very long play downfield that looked beautiful. And once again, Fields' placement on that ball
Fantastic.
was amazing.
Fantastic. There was 2 defenders. He put it like only where Velus was going to be able to get it. Velus went in between both of them. A little bit of a slide catch.
Held onto the ball, though, too.
Yes. I tweeted that out, too. Where has this been all season, right? Like,
and I might be the only person in Chicago, maybe the only person in all of America who still would like to see him get another opportunity to run back punts. On kick return, he almost broke a couple.
Again, at this point in the season, why not?
What do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
Unless you want to see what your boy Pettis can do. He had one decent return.
Yeah, you know what Pettis can do.
But I was just picturing that return, too. I was like, if that was Velus,
right,
what could have happened?
Right.
Because Pettis doesn't have the kind of acceleration or top-end speed.
No.
I don't want to steal all of them. There's another very obvious one.
Well, I'll throw this out here. It was one that we've touched on a little bit, and it does go, into my opinion, into the future. Cairo Santos came back. Do we worry about the kicking position anymore? Have we been overthinking the kicking position? Do we just bring him back and know what we have? A guy who occasionally misses extra points, but can't kick anything over 55 yards.
Have you noticed, though, even his makes, they all
are
look ugly now. All of them look ugly now.
Yes.
So here's what I'll say.
We've about
said
this.
It. He's got to have competition.
Bring in competition.
Yes, no doubt about it. If you don't bring in competition, you're doing a disservice to the team and honestly to him.
Yeah.
Because maybe he needs that right now, is to like win it out.
We do have to say, though, the ones in this game were only 30-some yard field goals, and they looked ugly. But it was a cold, blistery, windy game.
Yeah, and Bass was missing all sorts of kicks too.
Awful. Like as soon as it went off his foot, you're like, whoa, that's way off.
That's right. All right.
That's like my golf shot. Shank.
But, well, and I put a tweet out about this, but you're the Chicago Bears.
You
know where you play.
Yep.
You have to have a kicker who can do it.
Yep.
But I'm telling you, 5 years from now, 6 years from now, I don't know if it's 10, I don't want to hear about bear weather anymore.
No.
I want it to be a
Stadium.
controlled
Yes.
dome atmosphere where good play is what wins you games, not crappy, the turf is this or the wind is that.
Yeah.
And already I heard people saying, well, you already have Minnesota in a dome and Detroit's in a dome. Yeah, fine, good.
We saw
What's the point of the...
We saw one of the most explosive, two of the most explosive quarterbacks in the NFL look like garbage because they couldn't do what they should be able to do, right? Like Justin Fields wasn't able to run. The only time Josh Allen was able to run, there was no one there. I mean, Jaquan Brisker, one of those guys, by the way, probably one of his worst games.
Okay. Well,
I mean, he was fine, but that decision right there was horrible.
he added to his team leading in sacks.
Yes.
Which is so sad.
But yeah, that was a wide open. I mean,
I'm still going to give you a chance to name the young player that stood out.
are we still talking offense? Because I'm going to shift to defense. Okay, so on defense, somebody who stood out to me, finally, again, and I don't think this is who you're going to say, was Dominique Robinson. Oh. His speed showed up, and I was like, man, this guy does have potential. This guy just needs to figure out technique.
Exactly.
And he needs to stay disciplined and stop getting caught not containing.
Well, I would like by next year, he's the guy you're rotating in.
Yes.
And just seeing what he can do because you have two guys way better than him playing above him on the depth chart. So my guy, we're switching to the defense, Kyler Gordon. I mean,
that was an easy one. Right?
I know. That's why I kept trying to lob it up for you, but you didn't want to take it. So, yeah, thanks for giving me the Dominique Robinson. That wasn't on my list. But Kyler Gordon in coverage. I know people were all up in arms because they were saying Stephon Diggs didn't have a target, blah, blah, blah. And they kept remembering that play where Gordon played him perfectly. Yeah. That was negated by a penalty that was accepted.
Yeah.
But it was a good play.
And it was a target. I know it doesn't count on the damn stat sheet, so they can't read it 20 minutes later when they're doing the broadcast. But stop saying he didn't get a target. No. They tried to throw him the ball.
It's not a target.
It is.
No, it is not.
It is.
You accept the penalty, therefore that play didn't happen.
Look, it's not a target on the stat sheet, but you can't tell me that they didn't try to get him involved in the game. And the way that they were talking about it was like, they haven't even looked his way. Well, they did look his way.
I guess I see what you're saying.
It just didn't count.
By the definition of what a target is. But this is why it must be fun to be negotiating contracts for guys. Because Gordon, whenever his deal comes up, I want to be able to say, I was one-on-one on Stephon Diggs and shut him down. That play never happened, my man.
That's right.
I don't know what you're talking about. So, but I'm sure there are some where a corner might get the benefit of a call, too.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, he had another interception. Does he have more interceptions now than Jalen Johnson is for his career? I think he might.
Johnson's value early in this year was how much people didn't even want to challenge him.
Correct.
And granted, the joke was, well, look who's across from him.
Yes.
It's a bunch of young guys. But let's shift not just on the high, well-known names, but a lot of young corners and DBs have been thrown into situations, and we're seeing good things out of them overall. Jalen Jones coming up with some plays.
Yeah.
Blackwell.
Yeah.
Who else? There was another one that I thought had some standout plays.
In this particular game or just this season? Like Elijah Hicks has been up and down, right?
True. I more meant like his last two games.
When they were down guys?
Yeah.
I feel like those are the only two.
Okay.
Joshua Blackwell and Jalen Jones, yeah.
But those are guys you're going to want to see get opportunities as well moving forward. So, Fields, I don't know. It's kind of weird because what he's done in the past has kind of given unrealistic expectations. Yeah. Because as we just said, makeshift line, makeshift receiving core. Hey, why did he only run for 11 yards? because he's not going to always run for 90.
Right.
Like that can't be our expectation.
Yeah.
And as you said, look across the field. You got an MVP candidate in Josh Allen who didn't look so good.
In fact, I thought he looked worse from a throwing standpoint.
He padded his stats at the end, like you said.
He did, but he still had
2 picks.
Under 200 passing yards. Like everyone's up in arms about Justin Fields not hitting 200 yards a game.
Yeah.
He didn't do it. Like
that second pick was really ugly.
Awful.
Like he didn't see
it.
Yeah.
No, it was bad.
And he had time.
Nicholas Morrow.
He had time.
It was like he threw it right to. Well, actually, when you saw the replay, he sailed it over the running back's head. Right? I think it was Singletary, but like went right over his head. He just sailed it. And that's something we've seen Justin Fields do a few times this year. Not never, but doesn't usually throw the pick, but at least knowing that a guy like Josh Allen can make those same mistakes, right?
Right. I mean, and like you said, it was definitely far from ideal conditions.
No, it was awful.
Nobody's going to go out there and tell you, oh, that was because of the weather. But I know Allen said it wasn't the cold, it was the wind that at times was tough to deal with. You remember that punt that settled and they blew it dead and
it just rolled
another 9 yards? Yes. They shouldn't have blown it dead, but you can see if the wind is doing that, it might have an impact on a short throw,
right
here and there. So, Montgomery had a really strong game. Touchdown was taken away from him on a Borum play where Borum just got blown up at guard.
Yeah, he did not look good.
And I'm thinking, again, try Leatherwood.
Right.
You're bringing Borum over from right tackle to left guard.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm okay with getting Borum snaps, though, too. Like,
true.
You got to see what you have in him because, he's clearly not going to start at right tackle anymore.
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot of question marks on this line. The only two that are, thank goodness, Tevin Jenkins is healthy enough to play. Like, I thought his career was over. So, but I'm also what is my catastrophicist? I don't know. I like catastrophic events.
Yeah.
So I'm a very pessimistic. Like I see
Best
it and I'm
case, worst case came out a little bit.
Oh my God, he's never going to walk again. And, he was fine in an hour. So
well, I have an offshoot of that. I don't want to get into it, but my boy Tua.
Oh.
What is going on with, it should be easy to monitor these things.
Yeah.
They're making it very hard. Anyway, we talked more about this game than I thought we would.
Yeah, me too.
So should we segue into something else here or?
Yeah, New Year's resolution. We're going to do our first Chicago Bears New Year's resolution. Then we'll take a break.
Yeah. Okay. So with the end of 2022 upon us, this is a time in many people's lives where it's time to kind of take an evaluation of where you're at in certain areas and
put down the sodas.
That's right.
Stop eating the cookies.
That's right. And we wanted to see from particular Bears, not just players, personnel, I'll say.
Yeah.
What type of resolutions they should have going into 2023.
And we picked 3 main.
That's true.
3 main people.
So it's actually funny, 3 different levels, I guess you could say.
It is.
So we want to do...
we'll go top down.
Yeah, we'll start at the top, I guess. So Ryan Poles...
I was going to say, not the way top. George McCaskey will leave him
Virginia.
alone.
She's past the point of...
Virginia's New Year's resolution is to live. I know that sounds bad.
I was thinking it. I didn't want to say it.
She's almost 100 years old.
That's right. So we're going to start with Ryan Poles.
Okay.
Do you want me to reveal and then we have a little conversation on it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for 2023, Ryan Poles, the GM of the Chicago Bears, his New Year's resolution should be to acquire a minimum of 3 impact free agents and a minimum of 3 impact draft picks. Now, obviously, we have to kind of explain what we think that means by impact. And I'll also say, if it's not through free agency and it's through a trade, I'm okay with that as well. So basically 3 veterans that are going to make a huge impact on next season and 3 new rookies. So what do you think of that?
So I think we're going to start with the veterans in my mind first, right? Because free agency comes before the draft. I think Bob Weiss, our friend who also did one episode while I was on vacation, pointed out that we gave out too much information.
That's true.
In episode 25 because we wanted 2 particular players, Elton Jenkins out of Green Bay to be a guard here in Chicago, and Josh Conkling to be a right tackle here in Chicago, and both on the same day signed 4-year extensions with their respective teams.
Our reach is getting big, I guess.
I guess
People
so.
are starting to listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. So
we'll talk in code, I guess.
It's a little frustrating to see those guys off the board, but again, you know, and we prefaced this in that episode. Like, not everyone's a guarantee to be here, but you have to think right now on who you want to go after. And Deron Payne is still at the top of my list. That is an impact player that if he becomes available, and I'm hesitant to think that he will be, you have to go get him.
Absolutely. Impact player, still pretty young, at a key position for what you want to do defensively.
Yes.
And you have wads of money. Now, I'm not saying get irresponsible with how you spend your money.
Sure.
But money talks.
Yep.
And if you have more of it to offer than another team, and you have a pretty good landing spot in terms of, hey, this team, the arrow's pointing up, or this defense is built for a player like me.
Yep.
You have a good chance at landing a guy like that. So, you know, that would be a great example of an impact free agent that they have to bring in. Talked also about bringing in a defensive end.
Yep.
It's a little thinner of a position than the interior looks like it might be. But again, we don't know. Some of these guys will get re-signed, will get franchise tagged.
Yes.
One of the three could also be at the receiver position.
Sure.
We talked about free agency not necessarily being the place you're going to get that number one receiver. But I know you wrote an article about someone they may be able to target in a trade, and I just heard a juicy one today that I'd like to throw your way as well.
Yeah, so I'll just touch on mine with the article. It was not my idea. It was a mock draft that was put out by the Draft Network. And they had the Chicago Bears trading down from number 2. So they have them getting this number 2 pick, not number 1 or dropping. And they trade down to 28. Wait, don't stop listening yet. Okay. They trade down to number 28. Okay. And they also get the number 59 overall pick. So they get a first rounder, a second rounder, and a 2024 third round pick. And T. Higgins. So that team they're trading with is the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't hate it, but ideally, I don't like going down that far.
Okay. If you're landing T. Higgins, you're putting him right in as your wide receiver one. With some great depth behind him in Mooney and hopefully Claypool and a stockpile of other – you talked about some other guys you could kind of piece together the rest of that room. If the Bears dropped all the way to 28 in the first round, knowing some of what their needs are, where you really want to be towards the middle of the draft, they could then turn and trade that up.
They could.
I mean,
they definitely could. And the guy that they picked, and I'm blanking on his name,
in the mock draft,
something Nelson out of Georgia, defensive end.
Okay,
he's a second tier, but he's still a first round talent.
Right.
And he fits the scheme, and you need help at that position. And if you did get Deron Payne in free agency, and now you're not having to, force your hand on getting Jalen Carter,
exactly.
Right there.
So, that would obviously be an impact player.
Yes.
Right there. Now, the one I'm hearing...
I'm curious, because he hinted at this in the pre-show, but he did not give anything away.
I want Rob's raw response.
Yes, raw reaction.
So... it's going to come pretty quick, though, when I started out. There's a player at quarterback who's fallen out of favor with his team.
Okay.
That team is the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh.
Carr is going to be benched in his final two games. He's being benched.
I didn't hear that.
Yes,
wow.
Derek Carr is being benched. So they're saying Raiders may be ready to move on from Carr. Now they want the number 2 pick to get their quarterback of the future. Would you take, which right now their first-round pick was projected to be number 9,
yeah.
So if the Raiders come to the Bears and say, we want the number 2 pick, we'll give you the number 9 pick and Devontae Adams, how fast are you?
Hit the button! Deal!
That's a deal right away.
Wow. And he's not young.
He's 30. And he has a big deal that he just signed, but the Bears have the money.
They have the money?
So
come give it back to the Packers.
Well, because think about it. Here's what we keep saying. And we do comparisons of the Bears with other teams and Fields with other quarterbacks. Josh Allen, right now, Fields is on hopefully a similar trajectory.
Yeah.
Where in year 2, he got a new coach and a new system.
Yep.
So you weren't totally thrilled by the year 1 to year 2 jump.
Right.
But then the year 2 to year 3 jump, where he got Stephon Diggs, he's an MVP caliber player.
Yes.
Then obviously they talk about Hurts and the weapons that were put around him, Tua and the weapons that were put around him. We didn't want to think that the best weapon you're going to get for Fields next year is Juju Smith-Schuster because he just happens to be the best free agent. If you land a Higgins or if you land a Devontae Adams, that's serious.
Here's what I love about the Adams trade over the Higgins trade. One, you're only going down to 9. Your chance of an impact player at 9 is greater than your chance of an impact player at 28, right? I mean, you still want your first-round pick to be an impact player, even at 28. But T. Higgins was technically a second-round pick. He was the first of the second round. He's number 33. But in that case, you're bringing a guy who's very familiar with Luke Getsy, too.
True.
Right? Very familiar. Somebody who spoke about Luke Getsy before he even went to the Raiders.
That's true.
So to bring him here, to bring it and give it back to Green Bay?
See, you and I, this whole time, have had a strong belief that Justin Fields can make NFL throws.
Yes.
If you now have a receiver that knows all the slight intricacies that a receiver needs to know to get that extra step, to get that, and I think Fields has the accuracy. I mean, that'd be a really, really fun connection to look at for the next 4 years.
Yeah, and then you still have Claypool who can do the go routes, and then you have Mooney playing in the slot.
Well, think about how much better that makes the other people.
You're going to open up things for Cole Kmet.
So let's not get crazy. I mean, this is just one of those
I'm excited.
pipe dream. This is just one of those pipe dream things. This is the fun of doing something like this and of just this huge offseason that the Bears are going to face.
Yeah.
So Poles is going to have a mission to get impact veterans. And then with the draft picks, like you said, that first draft pick, whether you're picking Bears could be 1, Bears could be 2.
Yeah.
And if you're 1 or 2, I'm assuming you're trading down. But like we keep saying, it'd be lovely to trade down but still be picking in the top 10.
Right. Now, to be devil's advocate, the one thing that's better about the T. Higgins type of trade is, one, T. Higgins is young. He's 23 years old. So he will continue to grow with this team where, Devontae Adams is probably on his last contract. Maybe he gets one short-term one after this. And you're moving down a lot, but you're also acquiring another pick in this year's draft that's in a top 75. So now you have 3 picks in that top 75 range. And we're saying he needs 3 impact players via free agency or trade and 3 impact players via the draft. It's a lot easier to find that having that more picks in the top, 75 than banking on getting a Braxton Jones in the 5th round. That's now your starting left tackle.
I totally agree.
These are the things though that make great GMs. And it's sometimes either one could work, and it's okay, which gamble do I take?
Right. And I don't want to put you out there because I don't actually remember exactly when you said this, but I thought at one point we brought up T. Higgins' name, and you were like, he's not a 1.
Did I say that?
I thought so. We could play back the tape. I don't know what episode. We'll have to listen to all 20.
What's those new commercials where they throw flag?
The challenge flag?
I probably did. So I'll be honest. I didn't think his numbers were as good his rookie year as they actually were. But he's had over 1,000 yards every year, 6 to 7 touchdowns every year. I started watching highlight tape after I read the article so I could write my own article. My big concern, though, is Joe Burrow is one of the best pure passing quarterbacks in the NFL. And by the way, I wasn't high on Joe Burrow either. I totally whiffed on that guy. I thought he was going to fail in the NFL. Not fail, but not be as good as he was coming out of college. And I love Justin Fields, but I don't consider him as a pure of a passer as Joe Burrow. I think he's a great passer. I think he's way underrated as a passer. But can he is T. Higgins a product of Joe Burrow, or is it that they mesh together? It's always interesting to see how other receivers do on other teams.
So we're almost coming up on a time to take a break, but let me just ask you real quick. Independent of the team. So don't think of him as a Bengal or the other guys I'm going to mention as Bears.
Yeah.
If you have to tell me between T. Higgins, Darnell Mooney, and Chase Claypool, who's most likely a number one receiver in the NFL, how do you rank those three?
Oh, easily T. Higgins.
Okay.
Then Claypool, then Mooney.
You put Claypool above Mooney?
They're like neck and neck.
Okay. Because we keep saying Mooney and Claypool just both aren't
They're
who you
both
want to be like, that's our one.
They're both wide receiver 2s.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we have more New Year's resolutions, but it's been a while since we've been talking in person, so we went a little long there.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break and then come back with some more New Year's resolutions for the Chicago Bears and maybe even some for the Hallis Huddle. All right, Hallis Huddle listeners and viewers, we are back. Episode 27 here. We started by talking a little bit about the Buffalo Bills game on Christmas Eve. The Bears got coal in their stocking, I think. And then we started talking about New Year's resolutions for the Bears. We started up pretty high up on the hierarchy, going with the GM Ryan Poles. Now we're going to take it to the coaching ranks. Really talking about Eberflus, but generally his whole coaching staff. So I kind of have one, I think, and you have one as well, but we think they kind of mesh.
Yeah.
So I believe Coach Eberflus's New Year's resolution going into 2023 will need to be to establish a defensive identity for this team. And the reason I specifically say defense, his background is in defense. He was a D coordinator with the Colts before he took this job. Runs kind of a similar style to something, we're familiar with, seen in Lovie Smith's time with the Bears. But to have all that going on and then see that they're like 30th against the run and 32nd in so many other categories, I'm not putting that all on Eberflus, but that's kind of where your background is. And you come in and this is a first-time head coach. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things you're learning and trying to establish as a first-time head coach. And not every coach wants to come in and be like the de facto coordinator of his side of the ball.
Right.
But in year 2, I'm hoping he has an opportunity to put more of that in there. And I'm also hoping, going back to what we said for Poles, that he's got better talent.
Yes.
And then with an upgrade in talent and a second year and the familiarity with your team, I'd like to see a stronger effort out of the defense.
So we are probably like the Justin Jones hype train. And I give you more credit than I do myself because I wasn't as high on him coming into the season. And I bought into him. I think it helps, having you hype him up for me. But we are definitely like the Jack Sanborn a little bit more on this side, and then the Justin Jones more on that side. Like we hype them up. But Matt Eberflus recently came out and spoke to just how important that 3 technique position is to his defense. And I don't think Justin Jones is that guy. I think he's a guy, but I don't think he's that guy. And I love to see Justin Jones stick around. We kept him in our mock offseason. But if he gets that guy, then hopefully that just like completely answers that question, right? And he'll have that talent.
Deron Payne is that guy.
Jalen
Carter is that guy.
Yeah.
So the New Year's resolution I have for Eberflus is quite dependent on the New Year's resolution we have for Ryan Poles, as it should be.
It should be.
And they came in together, and I love that.
Yeah.
And it's another reason why, when you're looking over at Denver, firing a first-year coach,
yes,
that's not how you feel about the Bears.
Oh.
They came in together. They knew what this was. It was a teardown. But next year's got to look different.
We talked about it. It doesn't have to be Super Bowl contender per se, but it has to be a playoff contender.
So we've talked, and I think a lot of this has been driven by Fields. We've been comparing the situation of the Bears to maybe Miami, to maybe Philly. But pre-show, I was saying maybe we need to compare the Bears to, I hate to say it, I don't even want to say it.
Don't.
I got to.
Because how much crap have I given this guy this whole season? I've shut up lately, haven't I?
Exactly. Would we be happy if next year's Bears look like this year's Detroit Lions? Now, I don't want to see them start 1-6.
Yeah.
But you saw last year a coach come in and try to establish an identity. And it may have worked inside that building. And I think the results they're having now show that it did.
Yeah.
But it wasn't working on the record. They were still lousy last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they started this year lousy. But now they're a bona fide contender. And what I really think you see this year, and I doubt it changes next year, there's not very many dominant teams, especially in the NFC.
No.
And so by next year, you should be in the conversation.
Yeah.
And that will depend a lot on these two New Year's resolutions that we just talked about. You had a slightly different take on Eberflus and I guess also the general coaching staff.
Yeah, so for me, I just want to see the coaching staff learn from their rookie mistakes, because too often we have seen, so we've talked about the hits principle and the discipline, and there hasn't been a lot of pre-snap penalties or stupid, unnecessary roughness penalties that we were seeing with the last regime, right? Like we saw a lot of that with the last regime. There's been a little bit more lately with the pre-snap, but I also put that towards the fact that we're seeing guys who shouldn't be playing, right?
Yeah.
But what I want to see is them overcome, some of the times, sometimes throughout the season where they had poor clock management, or specifically when they get to that 30-yard line. We've nicknamed the red zone the dread zone. But for me, it seems like it's anywhere within the 30. Luke Getsy, and I don't know if it's coming from Matt Eberflus, but Luke Getsy's play calling gets way conservative compared to what we've seen when they're not in that area. It's like they play for the field goal, or they play to not turn it over at times. Or they might have the lead, and then instead of playing to score 7, they just, okay, we'll settle for 3. And I can't stand that.
And it's weird to say play for the field goal when we also talked about Santos and his struggles.
Yes.
And I'm afraid to even say this, because we are getting a lot of listens and views now. So I don't want to go on record for being this kind of guy, but I got to ask, is any of that what you would call tanking? I mean, I think tanking is having a bad record because your team's just not as good.
Correct.
I don't think it's actively doing things you don't think will work so that you lose. But after that beautiful bomb to Bayless Jones, when that's the best throw of the game, they then went the next 3 or 4 plays were these terrible runs that led. I don't think that drive. Did it lead to points?
I don't think it did.
I think that's one of the ones that stalled out and ended up being a turnover on downs.
I think it was. They had a few fourth down that they weren't able to convert. And we didn't specifically talk about it. We mentioned the play calling in that Buffalo game, but too often it became run, pass. Run, pass. Run. I was like, is Matt Nagy coaching? Run, pass. It became awful.
Well, and even the types of runs. You have the dynamic runner in Fields. Now, we talked since his injury. I feel like we haven't been asking for as many designed quarterback runs. But even if you're not going to design a run for him, making him look like he's one of the threats opens up lanes for whoever else may be running. And I hate to say it, it was his first game back. Khalil Herbert looked a little...
It was a rough game for him.
He wasn't at his best last game. And I think he might have gotten some of those runs that I'm talking about that just went nowhere. And now you're looking at 3rd and long.
Yep.
And this team isn't built to convert on 3rd and long.
No.
Fields has manifested crazy things.
Yes.
That can't be what you depend on.
Correct.
So we'll keep that one kind of brief, I guess.
Yeah, that's what they need to do. It's on them to figure out how to do it. I can't give them the answers, or I would be making millions of dollars coaching the team myself.
There you go. Well, we already saw people are listening to our podcast and making re-signings based off of it.
Fucking Browns and Packers, man.
Maybe we should be getting a little... So we went all the way up to the GM, then we went to the head coach or just coaching staff in general. And I guess if you're going to pick one player, everyone knows who we're going to pick.
The field general. Justin Fields himself.
That's right. What do you got for Justin Fields for New Year's resolution?
My thing is to just continue the work ethic. It's not really much of a resolution because he has bought into it since college. I want to see him get out there and whatever new weapons we get here in Chicago, I want to see him doing the same thing he did this offseason, working with them, in Atlanta when, offseason programs aren't going, and taking that extra step and trying to develop that continuity that we've seen. We saw it with Mooney at times, and we saw it with Cole Kmet with times this year. I want to see that with Claypool. I want to see that with whatever other wide receiver comes in. Maybe it's with Bayless Jones. Maybe he can get a jugs machine like Darnell Mooney got, and we won't see him drop the ball anymore. I just want to see him continue that leadership, that work ethic, and that going forward. From a fundamental standpoint, I saw a huge transition from his rookie year, from a mechanic standpoint, technique, to this year. I'd like to see him. He does the different arm angles, which are fantastic at times, but sometimes he's got to figure out how to get it over the offensive lineman's head or defensive lineman's hands. I've seen too many batted balls, right?
Hitting helmets, yeah.
So those things I just want to see him work on.
Okay. So mine's, I guess, more of a macro thing.
Mm-hmm.
Win.
That's the key.
He should win. And he says all he cares about is winning, and I believe him.
I do too. Oh, he is angry in press conferences.
So the steps that he's taken from his rookie year to his year 2 have been impressive.
Yes.
Have been noticeable to those who want to notice.
Yes.
To some, I don't think they want to see it, so they don't.
Stay off my Twitter feed. I have a lot of trolls.
Yeah. So I'm not talking to those people, but there's been a step.
Yep.
And I think these things are all tied together. Talent acquisition is a must.
Yes.
It's unavoidable with the situation they're coming into. The most cap space in the league. You're going to have draft capital. There's going to be better talent on this team next year. And Fields will have taken a step. And hopefully there's continuity with working with Getsy. I'm not going to put everything on that.
Right.
But we should see a tremendous step up in his game from year 2 to year 3, which should be notable in the win-loss record. I mean, they're 3-12, and they're kind of like the anti-Vikings because they've lost, I think, 7 games by 1 score. I think they're 1-7 in 1-score games or 1-6. I'm not sure.
That's about right.
That's about right. You got to go 500 in that.
Yes.
Or if you have that dude, you're winning more than you're losing in those situations.
Yes.
In which case, they should be next year's Detroit Lions. Pains me to say that, but they should be a team that
can we make them the New York Giants at least? Like,
it's a little different.
It is a little different. But like
the analogy is different because
easier for
they
me to
did it with
say.
a first-year coach, but this is a second-year coach where the system was implanted and the results weren't there. Yeah. The results followed a year later. We need to see that. Honestly,
I'm trying to think of another team and I can't.
I'll be disappointed if they're not, a 500 team next year. Which that's asking for 6 more wins. Yeah. But I think it's doable. Yeah. Especially if Fields is the reason.
Correct.
So, those are the New Year's resolutions we have for the Bears. I mean, obviously, we talk about how this is a time in everyone's life where they're evaluating. So every single player on that roster, every single person in that organization should be thinking, how do I help us get better? Yeah. But we picked on a few key figures in that, and I think hopefully those are things that they're already focused on.
Yeah. Now we have to look at ourselves.
Okay.
Reflect on ourselves and what we need to do to bring the Hallis Huddle to a new level.
Okay.
Right? So this podcast was started in May with myself and Jeremy Layton. And Jeremy, obviously, as those of you who have been here for a while, know he left due to work reasons. And rather than trying to find someone who was already established in the Chicago Bears social media landscape, I said, you know what? I'd rather just talk to my friend.
And I have no presence on social media whatsoever. Yeah. I mean,
but I knew how you think, and we have these conversations on a weekly basis. I mean, we run a fantasy football team together. I
don't want to talk about it.
It was a rough year. Fucking Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos again.
Oh, man.
We weren't the only ones screwed by Russell Wilson, okay?
How about this? Off the record, but our UFFL team better be like the Lions next year.
Our UFFL team better be like the fucking Philadelphia Eagles next year. We're coming for all of you.
All right.
Bob, Grant.
Yes. It's got to change. But that wasn't where we were going with this.
No. It's about the Hallis Huddle, and there's little things that we've talked about that we want to bring to this. We want to develop set segments, things where, you're going to see a graphic on the screen, and it's going to be this is the segment and it's going to be something. I don't want to, I mean, okay. So one of them that I've talked about, I mentioned it before. One I really think needs to happen is Rob rants. Like Rob's rants every week. I'm going to have a little rant about the game. Okay. It could be anything. And I'm going to bring the energy. We talk about fire and ice. I'm going to bring the fire and the passion. Okay. And then I'll bring it back down.
I like it.
Bears briefs was another one we were talking about doing, something where it's like
we're not stripping down to our underwear for that, right?
No. Okay. Although we have the explicit content, I think it would be okay. Maybe some female listeners would join. I don't know. But just those little things we want to bring to the table, and we're going to start hopefully bringing those as soon as January. You know, I think we can do that. It's going to be hard to rant about things in January, but
I mean, I think the NFL has done a great job of kind of becoming a year-round thing. Yes. When the offseason does hit, there will definitely be content and things for us to put out there, but there'll also be some lulls. But I think, you know, I appreciate you thinking of me and bringing me on for this. I don't know exactly what it took for you and Jeremy to get this thing going because I like where we're at, but I know I wasn't a part of, like, building it. And that couldn't have been easy, but
I think, and no offense to Jeremy, I don't know if Jeremy even listens, but no offense to Jeremy. And I think Jeremy and I could have seen the growth as well. But like where we were at when you and I started in August to where we're at now, the growth, the development, the comfort level, the ability for us to just sit here and have a conversation. I do think, one, it helps that we're here, right, together. I did speak to a couple people that said when we did it remotely last week, it was a little rough. I think it was internet related.
It was internet related.
But yeah, I mean, you and I have a connection as a friendship. We've been friends for over 10 years. Like, it's very easy for us to talk, know what each other are thinking, pick up off of where someone's starting to lull and you pick them up, vice versa.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's been a blast. And, you know, where I think we can grow, and I hope that we do, is just bringing a variety of different types of content out. Yeah. And some of that will be through social media. I don't want to like say anything now that we like are going to be sold in on or anything like that, but we have off the air. We've been talking about some ideas and
high expectations, but sometimes we might bite off more than we can chew because we have families and jobs.
True. But we just, knowing that the NFL is kind of a year-round thing, and knowing that, you know, fans of the Chicago Bears and hopefully fans of the Hallis Huddle want to be consuming this type of content all through the year, I hope we're able to deliver on that. And it's hard, like you said, to sit down and give up, you know, the hours that it takes to record and edit and then put those things out there. But maybe we can find little small ways to quickly put out. You know, we talked about, and we've released a few shorts. Yep. Those take some time too. But we want to find a way to kind of diversify the type of content we have out there so that we're connected more to the fans. And we love interacting with other Bears fans.
Yeah. You know, comment section, please. On this episode, and I'm going to title it somehow with New Year's resolution, but on this episode, I'd love to get comments where, you know, tell us some of the things that you'd like to see for 2023 from the Hallis Huddle. Things that you'd like us to maybe talk about that you don't see other podcasts talk about. A lot of podcasts kind of stop at the end of the season. I know it isn't all year round, but there are some that only focus on the games. I don't want to be that. I think we're going to continue to try to do it weekly or at least bi-weekly in the off season.
Well, and we loved doing that mock off-season episode.
It was so much fun.
And people really seem to be gravitating towards it. And it's already, we talked about 2 of the 3 agents we wanted are off the table. Yeah. We ran it from the number 4 slot. Bears are now in the conversation for number 1. Yeah. Or very likely number 2. Right. That changes the whole dynamic. So we'll put out more of those as you learn more about the draft prospects and things like that.
And I'll admit, I am self-taught from a video editing standpoint. So I'm hoping that I can grow in that regard. I have some people that I'm talking to hopefully help me out with that. I actually looked at taking some college courses, and unfortunately it's stupid, but you need prerequisites of things that I don't care to learn in order to learn the things that I want to learn. Our education system.
The gatekeeping there.
Yeah.
Won't they just take your money?
Apparently not. But there are avenues for me to learn these things without becoming an actual social media YouTube developer. And one key thing, and I'm hoping this will be done prior to our next episode, is I want this Walter Payton photo hung. Above me here is the Chicago thing. This was supposed to be temporary. I said that like 3 weeks ago.
It's been a rough month for you all.
My wife,
forgive you.
My wife is busy. Then the holidays. She is less busy now. I'm hoping that between her and I, we can get this hung prior to next week.
All right. That's I'm going to hold you to that. But no, I mean, that's another aspect. The studio is looking nice.
Yes.
I
have a new
sound
table
quality
coming.
is good. Okay.
By the way, this is my wife's table. She wants this back. She's like, this table has been in the basement for far too long. So she got me a new table.
I like what you said about hearing from viewers and listeners, especially if you've been there the whole time, what you think we could look to do in 2023. But it's been really awesome, Rob.
Yeah,
so
it's been fun.
Appreciate doing this with you. 2 more Bears games. We're going to break those both down, and then obviously we'll see what the offseason looks like.
I have one final thought. I meant to bring it up in the opening. I'll say it in the outro. Today was the 1-year anniversary of the death of Jeff Dickerson. I can speak to the fact I've never met the man in person, but I can recall back in high school and the first couple of years in college, I listened to ESPN radio from morning to night. He was the beat reporter on there for the Chicago Bears. I think he started back in 2001, so that was my junior year in high school. I wore the shirt today to make sure to remember and dedicate towards his career work. One of the most positive people from everyone that I've spoken to that have met him on a personal level. And one of those guys that just reported. He wasn't one of those guys that was looking for the negativity, which you could easily find here in Chicago. And you can easily find in many, many, many of the beat reporters who are out there. If anyone knows the initials DW, I'll just leave that out there. I know Adam, he played a big part in a lot of people's careers who are that are covering the Bears now. Adam Hogue, Adam Johns, being able to see how they developed their style, kind of, you can see it developed from the way that Jeff Dickerson was. And if I was ever to be in the position to cover the Chicago Bears on a full-time basis, I would hope that I would also fall into that category. So.
Yeah, that's really well said. I got nothing to follow that. Like, everything you said is kind of the reputation that I've heard he had. So thank you for saying that. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Episode 27. Please come back for episode 28.
That's right. It's a wrap. Bear
down.